And we're live. Okay. Let's see if we actually get anyone. Adverts up. I see I have 4 viewers, but no one's in Discord, so a bit concerning. How many of you are goon spies? And would you look at that, we got someone. Okay.
How's it going, man?
Hey, man. Somehow it escaped me when I made my pre-ping that it was Christmas Eve and probably no one was going to be online.
I'm here, man.
Hey, you're here, and that means we can do stuff. I linked the Twitch stream in the ping. If you want to look at that, that's just going to show you my screen.
Yeah, I'm already on your Twitch stream.
Gotcha. So, you might want to mute that tab just because it's going to get echoey.
Yep, taken care of.
Okay, so I'm going to wait probably about 5 more minutes, see if anyone else shows up, and then I'll start going through stuff. Given it's only you, I have a feeling we're going to be doing a little bit different than what I'd planned, but just realized this VOD's not going to be helpful. I forgot to set it to record Discord. There's also a fleet up ESS defense class if you want to join that, although it's just 2 of us. It's not that big a deal.
I probably will after you get bridged from NSI.
Gotcha. B incursions.
Yeah.
just realized I was very dumb and accidentally said pre-ping again in my ping.
It's okay. Obviously, nobody's reading it anyway because Christmas Eve.
Yeah. Hey, we got another person.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, I definitely did not accidentally type pre-ping on my actual ping.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, you're good. You're good.
Okay, great.
Yeah. If you want to see my screen, you can hop on the Twitch.
Yeah,
Just mute
I'm
the
there.
tab. It's not going to be that necessary, but basically I'm going to be playing the ESS rubber and instructing you guys how to use the doctrines. So I'm definitely not going to feed 150 million random cruisers. Yeah. So Shurkan, just a shout out when you guys are ready to go. I'll go ahead and start the class then. So I guess I'm going to explain what this is for the Twitch now. So it's been pretty quiet, but the gist of this is my Corp FUSEN has been struggling a bit with keeping our rental system ESSs uh, in our
We are
pockets, let's
still
say.
getting people, so maybe let's wait like 5 minutes more.
Yeah, I'm probably going to wait another 5 minutes. People keep joining now, so. Yep. Taze, there is a fleet up if you want to join that. Same to you, Land.
Okay.
Sounds good. I'll do that.
Is there a beacon in RO?
I don't believe you'll be able to jump to RO directly either way. There is a beacon in 6U. So as I was going on about, my corp's been struggling with defending our ESSs, so I'm going to run a bit of a small instructory lesson to some of my corp mates about how to deal with small gang and solo ESS robbers in our free handout ships. I guess this is something I should ask everyone before we get started. Does everyone here have corp roles? If not, I'll hand you one of the ships.
I do not.
I don't think
Pays
Shurkan does.
T5.
So, just one thing you might want to look at is applying for corp roles. The basic corp role has the same requirements as staying in corp, 6 honks a month, and it gets you access to the basic hangar that has a lot of the home def ships in it.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to get those honks in. I assume we can't apply for the role without the honks.
So what I'm probably going to end up doing is going through how to get corp roles first and access to the hangars, and then I'll go through the actual usage of the ships within those hangars and how to defend the ESSs with them. Okay. Looks like we might have one more person joining, but we'll see. After that, I think we're going to get started.
Okay, okay.
So obviously you're not going to apply and get corp roles within the 20 minutes we're probably going to discuss them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take ships out of the hangar, and I'm going to trade them to everyone who doesn't have the roles. And then at the end of this, I'm going to have you trade them back to me so I can put them back in the hangar. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that how it usually goes? Like if we want to do ESS defense, we ask someone for ships out of the corp hangar, and then we go.
Yes, that's what's mostly typical. If we're going to use our own doctrines, someone with roles will pass the ships out and then collect them at the end and then put them back in the hangars. Although you should really strive to have the roles yourself, especially since the basic role is what is needed to stay in Corp in the first place. It's just
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you're in Corp for the first 3-4 months, you might not have that role yet. And one other thing, I want to cover the Vector Doctrine and the Arbitrator Doctrine, but we do only have 2 arbitrators right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to share one of those. Sorry about that.
Yeah, yeah, no worries.
I have requested more arbitrators and more vectors because we are running out, and Steve is working on those right now. So.
That's my alt.
Okay, okay. Sorry, I just didn't recognize the name. Okay, that's probably all of us here then. So let's get started on that. So, first things first, who needs help with the corp roles?
Hi.
Okay, so I would go on the Twitch right now. If you aren't already, I'm showing the Discord. So I'm gonna go through the gist of how to get the corp roles.
All right, I'm on your Twitch.
Okay.
And when we talk about roles, we mean Discord roles, pandemic roles. What kind of
So
roles?
double click on my name in Fleet Chat.
Gotcha.
So what you're gonna see is it says my username Pyro, and then under that it has a title :
Okay,
advanced.
okay. Corp
So
roles.
that
Gotcha.
advanced gives me access to the advanced corporation hangar. So if you open your inventory, you have your ship hangar, your item hangar, your deliveries hangar, and below that you have corp hangars. So
Gotcha. Yeah,
these are
I'm
where,
familiar with
yep,
that. I was just making sure
yeah,
because I haven't played it like in a few years, so I wasn't sure if
yeah,
the concepts changed. But yeah, okay. Corp hangers, corp roles.
yeah. So a role in the corp, if you have the basic role, it gives you access to the basic corp hangar, and if you have the advanced role, it gives you access to the advanced corp hangar. And then if you have like director roles or someone like that, like upper management has access to the other stuff. And that's why they also have their own unique titles. So going back to our Discord, if you go up into the services section under bot commands, there's this new corp roles. This is the Abyssal and Pochvin roles. Those are Discord roles. But if you scroll up, you should see this post by Reynis. Want to add an alt to corp, use this form. Want corp roles, use this form. So we want that second form.
Okay, okay, I see.
So we're going to type your name's full name, and then depending on what access you want, starter is the basic roles, and member is the advanced roles. Starter requires 6 honks a month. Member requires 30 honks a month.
Are there even that many fleets?
I
I've
get,
been
on average, 100 to 150 honks a month.
okay, nice. Okay,
Yeah, I got 20 honks yesterday.
damn.
It's not too hard to do, but it's also something that you kind of just can't get around if you want to stay in an ESI gated corp in Horde. You need to be active. Of course, you don't need the full advanced roles. You can get away with the basic roles. We do have ships in there. But it is going to be a little bit tougher to access ammo and like rolling ships. We have some shuttles in there. We have some dictors in there. It's just there's a lot more stuff in the advanced hangars that's good for corp use. Okay.
For sure. Yeah. I just need to figure out where these fleets are and what I need to bring to them.
So most of these fleets are posted on the PH Discord,
Yeah,
and
this
those
is
things.
going to be more of a PH fleet. It's not so much do corp fleets. It's definitely more
Yeah,
of a
yeah. It's
participate in
PH.
PH alliance stuff. So
Yeah.
honks can come from these stratops. These get pinged. Home def. Those are your two best sources, and that's what most people in Fusion do. And then also in your regular pings channel, you have your roams, and these roams are also honked a lot of the times. So this will also get you your honks. So doing 1 or 2 fleets a month, and then if you fly T2 Logi, that'll get you double honks. That'll get you towards your 6 honks really quickly.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Okay.
So
Because
if
I
you
was looking at the strat pings and it's like 7 a.m., 11 a.m., 8 a.m., 7 a.m. I'm a bit nervous about that.
Yeah, no. So a lot of the strat pings are EU time zone because that's what a lot of people are. So strat pings generally are to take down a structure or something, and that's harder for us Americans to do. and so but Zig runs a lot of fleets. You get a honk per hour or so. So if you're out on a fleet and you have to fly a Tech 2 Logi to get double honks. It has to be Tech 2.
Sure,
That's one
as
of the
long as
best
it's
ways to
SRP.
get your honks, but also it's just 6 a month isn't too big of a deal. That's 2 fleets a week, and you'd get it on the 3rd week of the month, so not even.
Yeah, at this point, it's just figuring out what I can afford because I'm like super broke. So I
You
can fly
can
T2 Logi, but
you can
it's
still
gonna be
fly a Vigil. You can ask for an NBI handout, and you still get your honks.
okay. Nice. Yeah, I got the NBI care package.
For me, it's just easier to get my honks with Tech 2 Logi just because it's just
Yep.
faster. And then if you bring 2 characters, you get an extra 20% as well.
Yep, so you get credits based on the amount of characters you bring and what ships you bring in. I'm guessing if you're struggling with honks, you're not a Titan pilot, but if you are somehow a Titan pilot struggling with your honks, that's a triple honk.
Does that work for our honk system as well for the honk records? Like for the exchange program? Do you know?
So the space points are based off of fleet credits, not honk credits. So it's how many fleets you were in. So if you go to Circle, let me pull up my Circle for a second.
Yeah, no, it says like there's been 739 and then you joined 14 or whatever it's been.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pull this over to my other screen. So we have these 3 numbers: the total number of fleets in the past month, the number you joined, and your credits. So you'll see that on all these roams, some of them have 2 credits. Like here, for this strat-op, the FC was Talphos, and I flew a Basilisk, so I got a double honk. So that means that while I only joined 51 fleets, I got more than 51 honks. If you have 2 characters, you still joined the same amount of fleets because you would have 2 characters in the same category. So you would have this honk from like Blue Squadron, for example, and then you'd also get a second one if I had like Cryomorphix, and that was my alt. And Cryomorphix was also in a capsule because he died. It would still be the same number of fleets because it was the same fleet here, but I'd have less credits. So this is what's really counted for space points and for some of the requirements for Corp.
So fleets joined is what counts.
Yes, fleets joined. Yeah. Does anyone have any more questions about Corp rules and how to get those?
Yeah. Back to the forum. So I don't request it right now until I get the honks, right?
I would not request until you get the honks, but also it's the worst they're going to do is just say, no, you don't have the honks, and then fill it out later.
Okay.
I would just not waste management's time because that just kind of just seems like a bad choice.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I would wait to get your 6 honks and then apply for basic. That gives you access to the hangars. I would not try to fight off ESS rubbers in your Ishtar because that seems like a good way to yeet a 300 mil ship.
Definitely.
For those of you just joining Discord, I have a fleet up in RO under Pyro. Also, you might want to join my Twitch. I've been showing some of the Discord roles and Corp roles, how to get those on the Twitch, because it's kind of hard to stream over Discord. Okay, I think I'm going to get started now. Shurkan, how far are you from RO?
I'm in RO.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, so first I wanted to talk about the fusion doctrines. So we have 2 main DPS doctrines. We have our Caracals and we have our Vexers. I'm going to pull out a Caracal and a Vexer right now just to show you the fits on the Twitch, because some of you don't have the roles. You can't actually see those. So our caracals are rapid lights. Apparently I don't have skills because I can't online the damage control. But these are meant to be long range. They shoot out really far and they apply really well. These are not meant to be used in ESS. These are meant for taking out small frigate-style, destroyer-style roams that come to our space occasionally. It's like just the other day, we had a Thera hole in 6U, and there were a whole bunch of bombers and assault frigates coming through this Thera hole. And of course we rolled it, and they eventually all left. But if we had to fight them, we would have taken out these rapid light caracals and gotten a couple Logi ships and basically just sat on the hole with a bubble and tried to catch them as they came back. On the other hand, our ESS doctrine, and the main one I'm going to be talking about today, is the Vexor. And these are a little bit weird. First of all, make sure you remember to fit your rigs if I give you a handout ship and it doesn't have them, or if you ever bring a ship out of the Corp hangars. They are named Fit the Rigs for a reason. Fit your rigs. But these are 100 MN, and they're built to do a lot of damage and have a big shield buffer, while still maintaining that speed. The whole point of these is that we can chase down stuff and avoid damage in ESS by speed tanking, and essentially avoiding enemy shots. I'm going to swap back to my ESS stealing ship for a second. But these are our two main doctrines, caracals, vexors. And then we also have a couple supporting ships. With the caracals, you can tell we're running out, but we also have ospreys, which we are not running out of because no one likes to fly Logi. And these are the same as the Horde ospreys. They're cap chain based Logi ships. You're probably going to get a better explanation of them on an actual Horde fleet than I can give here, so I'm going to save that. And then for our Vexors, we have the Arbitrators. And also in 6U, we have some Scythes that go with the Vexors, but there's none in RO right now. I can't show you those. So the Arbitrators have a bit of a specialty role. These are weapon disruptors, and they are actually local repped. So these have this Ansel repper, so you're not going to be relying on Logi. You're going to be basically your own Logi. I don't know if you have any experience with local reps. I'm guessing you're all Ishtar spinners, so I would assume you at least have the general idea. If anyone doesn't know how local reps work, please tell me. I've encountered some weird stuff, and that's one of them.
Like local rep, like shield boosters, armor
Shield
repairs,
booster,
ancillary?
armor repair.
Okay.
The arbitrators are Ansel armor repper fit, and a lot of Horde people, I've realized, don't actually know how to fly local reps because we always fly Logi. So if you have a question about local reps and how those work, please do tell me.
I have one question. So the ancillary rep was added when after I stopped playing. Is it any different from a local rep except it uses nanites?
So it works the same way as a normal repper, except yes, it uses nanites. The thing is, if you don't put nanites in the Ansel repper, it does a lot worse than a normal repper.
Oh, you
But
can run it without.
with your nanites in, it reps a lot more. The issue with it is your nanites are limited to 8 cycles. So you can only rep 8 times before your armor repper becomes significantly weaker. So it's really good in short, brief fights, and the longer you're having to tank, the worse it becomes.
How long does it take to reload? Or is that not an option?
It takes a full minute to reload.
Okay, it's not an option. Alright.
Yeah, so what you would want to do is disable auto reload and just run it in its worst state, because it's better to have. I should also mention they are also more cap hungry than other reppers. So that's the other main issue with them, is that once you run out, because you'll be pulsing it because you only have 8 cycles, once you run out of your 8 cycles, you're using a lot of cap for very little rep. They are really good, however, in these short fights like what's going to happen in ESS. And the arbitrators have other ways to mitigate their damage, mainly these tracking disruptors. So right now they only have the optimal range script. I have requested from Steve that we get the other scripts in the restock, and I have also requested guidance disruptor refits to be put in the cargo. Guidance disruptors are not as good as the tracking disruptors, but if we are running like a 10-man defense fleet, we have 400 mil in the ESS, it's good to have at least one of them if it's a missile boat we're up against. The main thing about these is that they basically stop enemy turret boats from shooting you at all. So each one of these, I have bad skills, but each one of these with decent weapon disruption skills and decent MR cruiser skills will essentially half the range of enemy turrets. And we have 3 of them. So that's half of the range, a quarter of the range, an eighth of the range. So once you put these on an enemy target, they essentially can't shoot you back unless it's an extremely long-range battleship or something of that nature. So the arbitrators are a lot slower than the vexers. The vexers are 100 MN. So the ideal is we take out 5 to 10 vexers against an ESS gang, and we can just use those. But if it's something larger, bringing an arbitrator or 2 is always a good idea. With the vexers, they actually have 2 kinds of drones, and what you're really going to want to look at is what kind you're using, because we have lights and mediums. The mediums are really good because they have a lot more DPS than the lights. However, they also track more poorly and are not as fast. So if you're up against something that is just trying to steal your money and run, you should use the lights instead. Even though it's less damage, you'll be able to chase them off faster. Does anyone have...
Do tracking disruptors really stack, like, linearly?
They don't stack like linearly, like so you have however much tracking left. So after, say I have 10 tracking, I use a tracking disruptor that has, sorry, I have 10 kilometers range because we're talking about range scripts. I use a tracking disruptor that halves my range. I'm down to 5 kilometers. If I use another tracking disruptor, it doesn't lower my range another 5 kilometers. There are diminishing returns. It lowers my range by half of what's left. So I only have 2.5 kilometers left.
Ah, I see. Okay, thanks for explaining.
That's the same way resistances work. So if you have a shield hardener that's giving you another 50% kinetic resistance, it's 50% of what you already have. So if you have 10% kinetic and then you have a 50% shield hardener, you're going to gain 45% resistance from the hardener. That's how most things in this game work. It's based on what you have remaining. It's not going to stack up and give you infinite tracking disruption or infinite resistances. Does anyone have any other questions about the arbitrators or the vexers? Okay, I'm going to move on into what the hostiles are probably going to do in your ESS, because they are people too, and they're not just rats like you're used to shooting. These things will actually have a strategy and shoot back. There are 3 main strategies for taking ESSs. There is the 100 MN stabber strategy, or you can use a vagabond or anything similar. You fit 100 MN afterburner, full speed, and you try to make it go as fast as physically possible. So you link ESS, and if someone tries to come fight you, you just run. And you run for the hills, and you don't look back, and then you filament and go somewhere else, trying to do the same thing. Against this strategy, the best thing to do is bring your light drone vexors and just have the light drones chase them off. It's really hard to get the kill unless you have something like a Hugin. I've been talking with Steve about maybe getting some Hugins, but it's looking a bit rough on that front. The other strategies are the ones that you're actually going to get a fight out of. You're going to have your kitey bullshit, which similarly to the fast steal your ESS, is going to be fit to go as fast as possible. This one is 100 MN fit, and it's fit to have as much range as possible. So it can shoot out to 70 kilometers with its beam lasers, and it's able to basically outrun your ships and keep them at range, keep your DPS out of... it's going to diminish your DPS by basically just running away from it and kind of playing to transversal. The other strategy is the brawly strategy, so something more like this MOA. It's blaster fit. Sometimes they'll have webs, and it's going to be bricked tanked. It's going to have as much shield or as much armor as physically possible, and it's going to sit at 0 and try to catch you with a lot of DPS out the front. This does 700 DPS, so it can shred a Vexor, no problem. The way you're going to want to play against these types of more brawly fits is with the arbitrators, because these already have a short range. My fall off range is 6,200. So let's go through the math with the arbitrators. I half that range. My fall off is now 3,000. That's where my optimal is. So I'm bringing down my range down to 3k. You can already kite that pretty easily, even while webbed. I use a second disruptor, and then my range is hitting the 2,000s. And with the third, I'm probably only hitting out to 1k with my DPS ammo. And that forces me to switch to my range ammo and essentially halves my damage and means I can't kill much. The arbitrators also work really well against this kitey stuff because you can play to how this is trying to kite. The tracking disruptors have a very large range, so you can cut off a large portion of how they're dealing their damage. The thing about this kitey stuff is that what they can do is they can always load longer range ammo and kite out even farther. So they're just going to keep pulling in if you keep putting tracking disruptors on, or they're just going to leave because they're fast enough to disengage. Of course, all these fits I'm showing you are extremely cheap versions. In reality, when people do solo roaming, they're probably going to use something more like a Phantasm, not an Omen Navy, maybe an ENI, not a MOA. The Stabber is pretty common, and you're going to want to look out for that because they do just take your ESS and then run for the hills. What you're going to want to do against those guys is really just send a Vexor or two in because they're not trying to fight you. Does anyone have questions about using the arbitrators to counter the brawly and kitey stuff and using Vexors as DPS?
Does the FC call normally for like 3 Vexors, 1 arbitrator or something like that? Or is
This is normally going to happen inside of Fusion Standing Fleet. There's not really going to be an FC. It is kind of the responsibility of each individual person who is ratting in system to dock up, get yourselves in a Vexor or an arbitrator or whatever else is in the hangar that you want to fly. I don't know, maybe we have fucking Komodos in there, but get yourself in a Vexor or an arbitrator, whatever you want to personally fly, and then meet up with everyone else, and you can go into the ESS at the same time. It's really important that you have to be on comms for this, because trying to coordinate that in the fleet chat is a huge pain. So I would always join pub if you're ratting, or if someone's trying to take your ESS. I understand a lot of people just don't like being social, but if someone is linking up ESS, don't just feed ships. Join comms, try to coordinate at least a little bit. There's not a lot of people who are into FCing in Fusion. I think I'm one of maybe 5 people who's FC'd before. But this isn't really something you need to FC an FC4. It's going to be 5, 6 maybe dudes, and it's going to be very simple ships. You're very rarely going to have actual logi, and most of the time you're just chasing people off. You're not sticking for a fight. And if hostiles do bring something large enough that you need a fight, I've seen the battle report from this morning. You guys know to call standing.
Something happening this morning?
Yep, I'm just gonna scroll up and find that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there was
I think that
12
was
those.
yesterday.
11.
Also realizing that my push to talk being enter means clicking on links while talking opens 50 bajillion tabs. And I just crashed my Chrome doing that, so. There you go. So this is what happens when they bring an overwhelming force, you would say. This isn't a fleet that we can exactly fight off using cheap vexers and arbitrators. So what you do here is you hop into Mumble, you go down to standing comms, and you say, hey, there's XYZ in RTech O, or XYZ in 2Tech W. And you give them a D scan, you post it in Intel, and you say, hey, can you come help? Because I'm really going to be teaching you how to fight off maybe 3 guys maximum. If there's anything like this, call standing. So, moving more into that kind of stuff, do you guys want to shoot stuff now?
Yes, always.
Okay, so,
Doctrine Marauders when?
hey, I can't call Golden Fleet. I'm not that important. So, who here needs a ship? Except if you need a ship in the fleet chat, please. And I'll hand you out a Vexer. If you have rolls, go ahead and take out a Vexer from the Corp hangar. Give me just a sec. I have to write down who took ships so I can get them back.
Do I fit the rigs or not for now?
Yes, fit rigs, fit rigs.
Alright.
Everyone make sure you fit your rigs, make sure all your modules are on, make sure you can fly those drones. If you can't fly those drones, tell me. I can give you some of the faction ones. Okay, it looks like we're good on that front. Does anyone want to fly the arbitrator?
Oh, can I trade in an arbitrator for a Vexer? TA5E?
Yep, go ahead. I'll trade you now. Yep. Make sure you load your scripts and modules. That ANSI, make sure it actually has the nanite in it. We talked about how it's not any good without it.
Sir.
Okay. Does anyone have any skill issues with these fits? Looks like we're good on that front. So obviously I can't exactly link to our ESS. That would not exactly look good on me. But I am going to enter the ESS, and I'm going to pretend to be a poor ratter shouting out that something is happening and some poor guy in some kitey bullshit is taking my money. So you guys are fusion standing in this instance. So let's see how you're going to try and deal with this. Also, I cannot kill Vexers because Steve would be very mad at me for requesting new ships and then blowing them up. So please don't try to kill me either. Although I'll just pull away if you guys are starting to hurt.
So you're on the ESS right now, and you're Omen right now? Is that what you're saying?
Yep, I'm going to the ESS in my Omen. So what you've just heard is intel that an Omen has entered RO and has gone and linked up to the ESS. So you guys, what are you gonna do?
Well,
Say it in fleet. Well, yeah, we could also just warp
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, so you guys are in fusion standing. So you guys talk it over and decide that you are going to bring ships and stop me from stealing your money. So,
Alright, well, guys, we got two
yeah.
arbitrators on grid and two Vexers, so I think we can take one Omen, or at least scare them away.
Yeah.
Yep,
I'm on
so-
the activation gate and he's on this scan. Come join me.
Yep, so someone finds me on D-scan and they're thinking, oh boy, what am I gonna do? So I can also see you on D-scan. Keep that in mind. I can
Yeah,
see
but
you on the 1AU.
if
So-
you leave, we are happy.
Yep, so that's the first thing you're gonna do, is you're going to go and sit on the gate and do nothing. Just sit on that gate, and maybe I'll leave, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll think, oh, that's a decent enough fight, I'll try to take that. Maybe I'll try to snipe one guy off the grid. But the gist is, you want to try to scare them off without having to actually risk ships, and without having to spend 10 years, like, manually flying them out of the bubble, because that's a pain. So, what you do right now is you try to just stack up on ESS gate and try to scare me off. If you want to actually get the kill, what I would recommend doing is keeping a Hugin in system and trying to warp that in stealthily without anyone going on grid. So the Hugin would be able to stop me from leaving, and then you could warp in your actual fleet.
Can you use the gate while cloaked?
You cannot use the gate while cloaked, but Hugins are immune to D-scan. And they have long-range webs, so that's the good thing about them.
Oh, is that new, the D-scan thing? Because I used to fly Hugin, but I don't remember them being
I
immune
think
to
it's from the
D-scan.
past couple years. I'm not sure how new it is, but I do know it hasn't always been like that. But Hugins and combat recons in general are immune to D-scan. So the Curse, the Lachesis, the Hugin, and the Rook are all immune to D-scan. So those are all really good ships if you want to take someone like me by surprise. So you guys have stacked up on that gate and I still haven't left.
Yeah.
What's your next course of action if I'm still stealing this money? You have 3 minutes left to push me out.
Align down the gate.
Yep, so you guys make sure you all align down the gate at the same time. You don't want to funnel in one after the another, because that gives me easy targets. Especially without any logi, if there's only one of you here, I can target that one guy and go one by one and pick you all off. That's where you get a lot of the cool YouTube videos of a 1v10 fight. Whoa, how cool. It's people slowly going in one by one. So what you're going to want to do is align down all at the same time, and then you're going to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, take gate. So if someone wants to organize that now, go ahead and try.
Okay, guys, are you aligned?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then let me count. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go.
Another question is, does everybody know how to align down gates?
Yeah.
It looks like all 4 of you got that. So the first thing you should realize is that I am going faster than you can. So you might want to consider what drones you're going to try to put on me. What are you going to do in terms of actually damaging me?
Lights.
Maybe the lights, yeah, so they can catch up and hurt you.
And would you look at that, my fall off range is 6k.
I'm gonna recall my drones.
Yeah. For now, let's just say you put the lights on me and I'm taking damage. I can't shoot back at you guys, and it's not looking good for me, to be quite honest. I kind of have to burn out of bubble and probably align to something and leave at this point, because my range has been almost 1/8 of what it should be, and the vexors are starting to catch up. And this is the good thing about the 100 MN vexors is that they can kind of chase at least a little bit, and they can maintain transversal pretty well. So if you guys would mind lowering the tracking disruptors right now, I want to talk about transversal. Especially in ESS, this is a big thing with the vexors, because they are 100 MN. They go really fast. The whole point of them is to kind of avoid damage and really avoid it kind of by cheesing it a little bit. So, Shurkan, can you go ahead and approach my Omen, like directly? I'm sure you know where this is going.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get a really good shot on me.
Yeah.
Once this starts approaching you properly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad everyone kind of realizes where this is going, because, yeah, this isn't good. So with this kitey stuff, this is mainly if you don't have arbitrators, because the arbitrators are kind of overpowered. But with this kitey stuff, I can hit you pretty well. Of course, you have a massive shield buffer too, so if I match your transversal, I can actually get some really good hits on. Like, keep in mind, this isn't a damage fit Omen. I do like 200 DPS, so. You can see here I'm getting hitting shots, hitting shots, hitting shots. So now what you're going to want to try to do is come at me at a weird angle. Basically, try to make your angular velocity as much as possible. So basically, turn 90 degrees and go the complete opposite direction I'm going, and then circle in on me. So the best way to do that is hit orbit, 30 kilometers, wait until you establish your orbit, then hit orbit 20 kilometers, then hit orbit 10 kilometers, and then because the vexors are a lot faster than a lot of ESS ships, what's going to end up happening is you're going to close in without giving the opponent that opportunity to hit that nice wrecking shot. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my prop mod off and pretend I'm a big slow boy now. So go ahead and try to increase transversal while approaching. Especially for the arbitrators, because those things have very bad range on their missiles.
Check angular. Do you look at like the little arrows in space, or do you look at the overlay?
There is actually an angular velocity overlay tab if you want to use it, but you can also look at the arrows in space. It just depends what works more for you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at both, but want to know what people use.
I mean, it always helps using both. There's never a wrong answer. It's just personal preference. The gist of it is just you want to be able to get a little bit closer, especially for the arbitrators and Newton missiles. The vexors, there's actually another strategy you can use where you can pull away range as much as possible and basically set your drones on me and then go in the opposite direction. So you'll have your DPS applied and the drones will stay on me until you target something else, but you can be 150 kilometers away. So I can't hit you even if there's no arbitrators. Yeah.
Is there any kind of ballpark number we're looking for transversal?
Ballpark number for transversal. In all honesty, the more transversal, the better. So, for example, right now, Shirkan, you have a pretty good transversal on me. So if I try to shoot you, I'm getting grazing shots. Yeah. I do apologize if no one wanted a red timer. Yeah. Okay, so you guys understand what the arbitrators are doing against Kaidi bullshit and what the vexers are doing against Kaidi bullshit?
Yep.
The arbitrators have to keep in mind that you don't have the same speed that the vexers have, so it's going to be a bit more difficult for you guys to keep up and do this transversal. So it might be the play to kind of pull away range, just stay at like 70 kilometers and just try to keep as much transversal as you can, and then just keep your weapon disrupts on from long range. That's the other way you can deal with this as an arbitrator, just because you're going to have a hard time catching up.
I have a question about the tracking disruptors. I'm seeing an optimal range and a max range. Does the efficiency or the effect fall off?
So, guns have an optimal range and a fall-off range. The fall-off range is going to be... How do I explain this? So,
I mean
fall...
for the tracking disruptors, not the gun themselves.
Yes, but the tracking disruptors impact the fall-off and optimal that you have. So I'm going to just briefly explain fall-off and optimal. So your fall-off range is actually the difference between the fall-off number it says and your optimal. So, for example, if you look at my stream right now, I have a fall-off range of 60 km and an optimal of 48. That means my actual fall-off range is 12 kilometers, and my optimal range is 48 kilometers. So, when you take away half of my optimal and half of my fall-off, that makes my optimal range go down to 24, and it makes my fall-off go from 12 to 6. So my total range would be 30. So effectively it does the same thing as just cutting every number by half, but it's a little bit difficult to understand when it gives you two different numbers. So effectively tracking disruptors impact fall off and optimal in the same way.
And the tracking disruptors themselves have a optimal range and a fallout range.
Yes, so at optimal range, it will do 100% of what the number says. So if it says it'll cut off half of my range, if you are within the optimal range of the tracking disruptor, it will actually do that. On the other hand, if you are at the end of fall off, it is only 50% effective. And everywhere in between, it's a gradient. So if you are halfway in between fall off and optimal, you're going to be 75% effective and only do 75% of what the disruptor is saying it will.
Okay.
And then, of course, it also kind of works outside fall off. It just goes quickly to 0. Because at fall off, it's a 50% effectiveness. Past there, it just quickly diminishes until it's not worth using. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and fleet warp us to the fort again. It looks like everyone's out of the bubble. Keep in mind that your align time with the 100 MN on is egregiously long. So if you're trying to chase someone, it's not the best idea to keep your AB on while trying to warp. Just decycle that before you initiate. I'm going to go ahead and reship to that Brawly Moa, and let's kind of demonstrate how that one's going to play out. The hard thing about brawly ships is it's really difficult to tell if something is going to be, say, blaster fit or rail fit. An ENI, for example, is a really popular ESS boat to be blaster fit, sometimes even polarized. But sometimes they also run railguns and play that same kitey stuff I was doing in the Omen. So the thing about ships that can be brawly is that you have to kind of bet that they're going to be ranged until you land on them. I'm sure you guys have seen that we have a rail MOA doctrine in Horde, so it's a bit odd when it's not quite the same, because this MOA is very much blaster fit, and a lot of the times you might be used to what the other fit's going to be. It's always just best to assume you're going to need to fight something far out, and we bring Vexers regardless, so it's just good practice, just per se. I'm sorry, I can't speak English right now. It's just good practice to imagine they're going to be far out, and this is part of why the arbitrators, I've been asking for the other scripts to be included in the fits, because it's really important for a lot of sometimes brawly battleships that come ESS roaming. Like, you saw that BR from earlier this morning or yesterday, depending on where you are, but there were some battleships in ESS, and those things, they have a very long range, so the arbitrator isn't going to do very much when you shorten down the 50-kilometer blaster range down to 10 kilometers. You're still within it. So what you're going to want to do there is put tracking scripts once we get them. For now, though, the scripts for the optimal range still work well because it basically prevents you from using your void or your con flag or whatever short range ammo you have. You guys can go ahead and warp to ESS grid now. We're going to go through the same play-by-play garbage, unless you guys want to just warp in, but you guys have to coordinate how you're going to deal with this.
I think we got it down, except the aligning down gate.
Does anyone need help aligning down gate?
Yeah, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing last time.
Okay, so you see the ESS gate, right? It's this big blue acceleration gate, and it points in a direction in space. It's almost like a Stargate, but you stay in the same system. When you take it, it'll warp you to a specific point, in this case, the ESS. So the direction it points is actually the direction it's going to warp you in. So if you double-click in space the direction that it's pointing, you will align in the same direction and be able to take the gate instantly.
Oh, okay.
Q double click.
Makes sense.
Yeah, you can Q double-click, you can just double-click in space. It does the same. It
Yeah,
just depends
okay.
on what you prefer.
I'm so used to there being like an actual button to do it. It's yeah. Tracking, that makes sense. That's
Yeah, you gotta
the
manually
the
align
very
down gate.
simple way to do it. That I was like, what the fuck is the button?
Okay, guys, when you want to coordinate it, you can come in.
I have one question about the acceleration gate, which is always recurring, is when I'm aligning down acceleration gate, I'm going full speed. What's the activation range on the gate?
100 kilometers.
What? So I can align down, be 100, like 50k
You
away
can
from the gate?
align down in your 100 MN stabber and be going 4k a second and still hit it.
Okay, so is it this like little like dotted blue line I see around it? That's the activation range,
Yep,
pretty much?
that is the activation range.
Nice. Okay.
Whenever
No
you
more
guys are ready.
questions? Oh, we just got one more on grid. Let's wait for him to align.
And this is a good point while you guys are coordinating your assault on me. So, the brawly ships often are not fast. You saw my Omen, it was going 1500 a second. It's 100 MN fit. It's meant to be kitey. This thing cannot go fast. It's not going to have an easy time escaping you. So, a lot of the thing with brawly fits is they're very committal. So the second you guys come in, I have to fight you. and that's regardless of what you're bringing. So it's always nice because they can't run when you bring overwhelming numbers. Like you have 2 arbitrators, 3 vexers. If I could, I would probably leave at this point, but I can't because you would catch me at 50k out and I wouldn't be able to survive that.
What's the range of the warp disruption bubble on the ESS?
The bubble goes 75 kilometers out in every direction.
Oof, okay, yeah.
So if you
committed.
catch a brawly ship 50 kilometers out and it's slow, you can put your medium drones on it because they're going to catch up because it goes the speed of snail. And you'll be able to, from a safe distance, stay out of its brawly range and still put your DPS on it. So if you ever see like a MOA or something that's going to be at 0 brawling, they are essentially going to never de-link from the main bank. So if you want to stop them, don't bother trying to stack up on the gate like we did before. Before you were trying to scare me off, and in the Omen, you saw me, I was already 30k off by the time you guys hit grid. In this ship, I can't, I'll be at 0. So it's not worth it to stack up and wait 2 minutes on the grid trying to get me to de-link.
And what do you mean stack up on the grid? You mean stack up at the gate?
Yes, at the
Or on
gate.
the ESS?
Last time, remember you guys just waited on the gate and tried to spook me? That's what you would do against something like a Phantasm or a fast T3C or a Stabber, is you would stack up on the gate and try to get them to just run. Of course, the difference is now I can't run, so regardless of whether or not you're stacking up, you're just giving me more time to steal the money.
Yeah. I think we should go down gate. I think we're all aligned, and that blue line is coming up quick. Who wants to do the countdown?
3, 2, 1, take gate.
Everyone can go ahead and put their stuff on me right now. So what you're going to notice is you guys are putting your medium drones on me, and I still can tank quite a bit. Like, I'm only 85% shields. But you're also going to notice that I go slower than even the arbitrators, and you guys are basically able to pull out range and get out of my brawly area quite quickly. And because the arbitrators are able to decrease my range so much, my fall off range is 751 meters. So essentially, I can't do anything here. What I would normally be doing in this situation is trying to defang drones, but because I have such bad tracking and such poor range, it's not really going to work. You guys can recall drones now. So these brawly ships are pretty easy to deal with if you have numbers. The issue with them is that if there was only a single arbitrator or a single vexer here, I would probably be able to get at least 1 kill before leaving.
Yeah, because we all land on you, huh?
Yep,
Kinda
you
get
landed
the
exactly on
advantage.
me. So if I had webs or longer range ammo, it would have been a little bit difficult for one of the arbitrators probably to survive. And of course, this is where you might want to like burn prop mods and stuff. Get out of range of a blaster boat or out of range of a pulse laser boat. You know, I probably should have done this one last. Now I have to burn out and grab my other ship. Yeah. You guys can stop nuding me now, or I'm going to be stuck here forever. Please, help me.
And the bubble never goes down, even though there's, yeah, I guess it doesn't
Bubble
care.
never goes down. So I'm gonna talk.
Oh, this sucks.
I'm gonna hop in my 100 MN stabber one last time and talk about how you're gonna be able to scare those kinds of thieves off. But in all honesty, it's not that big a deal for the stabbers. What I mainly want to talk about for the rest of the class is other useful ships that you can, personal ships, not doctrine stuff, that you can shove in hangars in 6U, RO, or 2-Tech W. That will help with ESS defense if you want to get more kills from it, as opposed to just saving the money. I know that's not something everyone looks for, but if you wanted to get more kills, it is nice to be able to have something like a Hugin or a Curse. We talked about earlier with the Omen how having some sort of tackle might have been able to effectively secure that kill, as opposed to with just the Vexers and Arbitrators, I'm essentially forced to run. Yep. Once you guys are out of bubble, you can go ahead and warp back to the fort.
So I've got some other ships, and I'm actually, because sometimes we have very few people on when I'm on, and ESS gets gone after. Any ideas about what would be good ships for, soloing, go after them?
So going after people solo is going to be a bit rough with our doctrine stuff. The arbitrators,
I mean, non-doctrine.
non-doctrine. Okay, so first I want to mention the arbitrators, because if you're up against a solo brawler, an arbitrator's not a bad take. Depending, I'm going to talk about stuff that's cruiser size. If you're talking about a battle cruiser or a battleship, I would just call for help. Just ping in Corp chat, ping in PvP pings. Hey, there's XYZ in the RTAC-O ESS. There's XYZ in the 6U ESS. Once you've done that, you might be able to get one or two more people that are in system to ship up for you. Like, get 2 or 3 Vexers, and that should be able to take care of most stuff. The alternative to that is you take out an arbitrator. And you guys realized how the arbitrator effectively stopped that MOA from shooting anything at all, right? I mean, my fall-off range was less than 1 kilometer, and you guys were all pulling out at 10 or above. It's really an interesting idea to take those types of weapon disruption boats solo, because they don't have a lot of DPS. They get around 200, but you do have the new and you have the disruptors, so you can effectively stop most gunboats from being able to apply to you at all, and you can slowly whittle down from 10 kilometer, 13 kilometer range. And of course, we haven't actually gotten into an actual like 1v1 fight or anything, so you guys haven't seen a need for the reactive armor hardener or for the Ansel rep, but that's mainly what those are for. It's so the arbitrators can solo gunboats. So, I mean, once we're done with this next one, if one of you wants, you can take out a solo arbitrator against the Omen and see how it does.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So now I'm going to go ahead and just show you what's going to happen with stabbers stealing ESS. The same holds true for vagabonds, although they have a little bit more staying power than stabbers. A vagabond essentially serves the same purpose. It is able to effectively function in the same role as a stabber. You fit 100 MN on it, and it goes 2 to 3k a second. And so you basically run the second anything tries to fight you. But you can also fit some decent autocannons and a decent tank because it's a T2. So the thing about the Vaga is it won't run from a single Vexer. Can I have one Vexer volunteer?
Shirkan will volunteer.
Okay, go ahead. You can warp to the ESS now. Actually, for all intents and purposes, if you guys want to see, you guys can come down too. It's just everyone can come in. But I'm going to pretend that you are all invisible and I can't see anyone but Shirkan. So what happens right here is I spy you on my ESS D-scan. So my 0.1 AUD scan, everything that's on ESS grid, I now see. So what I do is I immediately delink and I start burning towards something. I align towards a ping. So I'm going to need one person to stay outside ESS grid, and then Shirkan, what you're going to do is you're going to try to set your drones on me and catch me, but you're also going to tell your friend outside where I'm aligning to.
10-4. Looks like he's aligning to.
Can you repeat that?
Looks like he's aligning to FMF. He's out.
Yeah, what you can do is if you're in standing fleet, you can broadcast what I'm aligning to, and then everyone else can warp to there. So go ahead and just do that.
It won't let me broadcast that.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, FMF TAC 335, the drone horde. I'm aligning to a combat anom. So the thing is, this thing cannot fight a Vexer. It doesn't have the tank. It doesn't have the DPS to kill one. And that's true for most stabbers and some vagabond fits. If you're up against a vagabond, I would recommend sending in 2 Vexers. That should be able to deal with it. But against a stabber, honestly, any ship can pretty much push them off as long as it has okay damage application. So the stabber will typically try to run. It'll align to either a safe, a celestial, or an unarmed, and it will just try to warp and filament out and go check another system. So effectively, Shirkan just saved your ESS just by coming in and doing nothing. This is the easiest type of thing to deal with. Shirkan, you can burn out a bubble. Yeah, I didn't even realize we were already out. My overview's screwed up. But if you guys wanted to secure the kill, what you would do is you would have one person with a point. He would go to where I'm aligning and be waiting for me there. So when I initiate warp to this unarmed, there would be someone there already waiting to tackle me. And essentially, if I did get the ESS, you would get the bonds back, and if not, you prevent me from trying to come back in 10 minutes doing the same thing. Which also, this is an incredibly easy way to make money if you want to take a filament and a stabber out to delve. But I'm going to go ahead and go back to the fort now, and if you guys want to try 1v1ing any of the ships and see how that works, I would gladly participate in that. After that, I'm going to talk at length about how you can stop people from even like entering the ESS in the first place.
Docking request accepted.
And was there anyone who wanted to try taking on anything?
Yeah, I'm in an arbitrator.
And what did you want to fight?
Anything that would be hard to kill an arbitrator, like not a MOA.
Yep, I'm going to go in the Omen then. So the thing about the Arbitrator versus the Omen, or any fast kitey thing, this isn't just about the Omen, this is going to be Phantasms, T3Cs, anything of that nature. Some types of assault cruisers are also going to be fit like this nano gang style. The issue with the arbitrator versus them is that the arbitrator is so slow. If you look at the arbitrator's speed, it only has a 10 mn and it goes, I believe, 600 meters per second. So I am between double and triple your speed. So you have to, when coming in, realize that I'm going to be able to have range control. And you need to determine whether or not you need to load tracking disruption or optimal range disruption scripts, depending on how much faster you think I'm going to be. And of course, you can always change scripts mid-fight if it's not working out for you.
About that, I only have I only have the optimal
Yep,
range
you only
script,
have
so.
the optimal range right now. I've talked up to some of the seeding guys about that, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll get my wish. If not, I will personally bring down like 500 tracking disruption scripts.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a money issue, right?
No, they're very cheap. It's just a pain to get them here. For example,
Yeah.
we were completely out of nanite in RO. There was none in the hangars, none in any of the ships. So I just brought down 1,000, and now it's in the advanced hangar. Yeah. So go ahead, come in when you're ready. You're solo, so you don't have to bother aligning down and waiting for people.
I am on grid. Do we start this now?
Yep, go ahead. The second you land with hostiles, they're going to shoot, so don't hesitate to shoot back. And you'll see I tried to pull range, get out of range of your newts and your missiles, but even in my longest range ammo, I now cannot hit your ship. So my only choice now is really to just leave. And then of course, your friends are now starting to come in.
Yeah, the transversal really helps because you're catty bullshit, but doesn't mean you can track me.
And that
Especially that
holds
close.
especially true when you have those disruptors. The thing about this kitey style of ESS fighting is that I can also match your transversal pretty easily and regain that control over the fight. The issue is with the arbitrator against the kitey turret ships is that you are unable to actually hit anything. My longest range ammo, I didn't bring radio because I was dumb, but radio sucks anyways. Imperial Navy infrared only hits out to 9 kilometers, and that's only under 1 arbitrator pressure. And I can't go within that range because that's when your missiles are going to hit me.
Yeah, the missiles are pretty far out, huh? Even lights, 37.
Yep, Kaldari Navy shoots a lot farther than you'd think, and it's extremely potent against this kind of kitey stuff because essentially nothing is going to be able to kite outside of your missile range once you have those tracking disruptors on it. The same holds true for missile boats, of course. If we ever get the guidance disruptors, you can refit in the fort to guidance disruptors and do the same deal. And of course, you'll see how I had to disengage because I couldn't damage you past 70% shields. And that arbitrator style of fighting works against much more expensive stuff than this Omen.
Yep. And because the disruptors are kind of screw you over pretty hard.
I don't understand why more people don't like disruptors in small gang and solo fights because they are really, really good.
And you only need one.
Yeah, you only need one, and when the arbitrator has 3, it just becomes honestly one of the best solo ESS defense boats. And that's why I've been asking for the other scripts, but it's not the best in terms of seating.
Docking request
Yeah.
accepted.
So, of course, I wasn't going to gate out a battleship to deal with this class, because that takes as long as the class is going to take in itself. But if you were facing something like a battleship in ESS, the range is going to be long enough on that thing that it doesn't matter if you have the tracking range disruption scripts. What you're going to want is the tracking speed disruption, of course, once we get them.
Are the tracking speed disruptors like strong enough to screw over like a large blaster?
Okay, so just for reference, if I get into like a Megathron, let me pull up a Megathron fitting. Okay, whatever. This is a incursion fit Megathron, but it's the same deal. So with a tracking computer, with tracking speed scripts loaded, and Keldar Navy antimatter, which is your best tracking ammo, it has 9.71 tracking. So that's already low enough tracking that if you orbit at 500 with an AB ship, you can probably get under its guns. The second you put all of your tracking disruptors on it, it's not going to be able to hit anything. And keep in mind, that is with a tracking computer. A lot of battleships don't fit that. Of course, they will fit paints or webs or some other form of damage mitigation, but especially under the pressure of an arbitrator, or if you have vexors, and of course, to take down a battleship, you need more than one vexor. You need probably 4 or 5. But in that situation, what you can do is you can orbit really close, really fast, and get under the guns, which is the one thing I wasn't able to show just because I don't have the ability to just bring a battleship whenever I feel like it. Yeah, sorry about that one.
What do you mean? You can't bring a battleship. Oh, you just don't have one?
Yeah, I just legitimately don't have one. And it's also, the thing about the battleships is I would have to end the class with that because it takes 20 minutes to bring it out of ESS. And also, I feel like it's not the best teaching moment because what it ends up being is just, it's a structure bash, effectively. You have the arbitrators and the vexors orbit at 500, prop mods on, you put all your stuff on the battleship, and then eventually it will die. Assuming he can't call for help. But most of the time, you're going to end up killing almost any battleship. It's possible you could die, 1 or 2 vexors could die, but there's always, you can just reship and come back. That's the good thing about them. They're cheap and they're in the hangars.
Yeah, you're probably gonna be IS positive even if you lose 2 vexors to a battleship, right?
Yep. Of course, I also want to point out that a lot of you just spin Ishtars. That's how you rat. That's why you need to defend ESS a lot of the times. But I would highly recommend against bringing an Ishtar into ESS. It can work against something like the Stabber, where it's just trying to run from anything. So if you just put your Ishtar in there, it's going to take you a while to burn out, but you don't have to bother reshipping. I would generally recommend against that, though, because you end up putting a ship with no prop mod in kind of a precarious situation where you can't warp. And if there are hostiles 2-3 jumps out, you are not looking well. So I would always recommend getting into one of the doctrine ships, either an arbitrator or a vexor, or if you're in 6U, we have scythes.
Yeah, definitely not worth throwing a 300 mil ship into an ESS to save probably much less than that.
The thing you have to keep in mind is you always have to weigh risk versus reward. How much are you saving in ESS versus how much are you putting on the line to get that save? if you are putting up 1 billion worth of Ishtars, like you have 4 Ishtar Ratters, and you're coming to kill a battleship that warped into your ESS, you're putting up 1 billion ISK in Ishtars for maybe 100, 200 mil in ESS. It's better just to refit to arbitrators and vexers, and you'll still be able to kill it. It's just a lot slower. And it depends what you value more, your time or your ship. And I will tell you this, upper management prefers you not lose your Ishtars in stupid manners.
Yeah. Well, I'll just refit the Vexer or whatever and go have fun against the battleship. If it dies, it's what, 20 mil?
Yep. There's a reason our handout ships are so cheap. So
Yeah, it's to have fun.
moving past how you're going to use these ships in general, I've covered against Kitey Nanogang, I've covered against Brawly style ships, and I've covered against the kind of thief 100 MN stabber bullshit. The real issue here is how do you stop people from wanting to take your ESS in the first place? Right now I'm probably going to talk a lot about RO TAC just because it's a dead-end system and it's a lot easier to do stuff in a dead-end system related to that. Thanks for that, actually. If you guys want, you can trade me back your ships. I'll put them back in the hangar. I do have to collect these and put them back, so. And also, if you please tell me if you have any questions or problems about this, because this is my first time ever doing a class type deal. I don't know. I don't know how much of what I said is just obvious to some people, but
But it really depends on the person, huh?
What about the counter to a T3C?
so there are 2 types of T3Cs that you're going to find in ESS. It's either going to be 100 MN, Loki, or Tengu, and it's going to be ham fit. It's going to kite out the same way the Omen did. Or you're going to find some sort of Legion or Proteus that's going to be newt fit and short range turrets. So against that, it's really difficult to do much without more numbers. Against the long range ham type T3Cs, you're not going to be able to catch them. They're going to be 100 MN fit and they're going to be blingy as all hell. You don't fly a Loki or a Tengu in ESS unless you're willing to risk a pod as well. So it's a lot of people run snakes in their Loki or Tengu, and it goes 2K a second. You're not gonna catch up, and your light drones are gonna have a hard time tracking. They're just gonna start headshotting your drones, and then they're gonna have range control. So they're gonna start picking off vexers one by one. What I would recommend against that is guidance disruptors. Guidance disruptors, once we get them, of course, I'll try to ship some in myself, just bring them in and just put them in the hangars in RO. But it's a lot better than you'd think because the T3Cs rely so heavily on their long ham range, hitting out to like 60 kilometers with hams. When you cut that down and they're only able to hit out to like 30 or 40 kilometers, it becomes a lot easier to get more DPS on them. And it also becomes a lot harder for them to actually take the engagement. And because they're in the realm of that kitey bullshit, they're probably just going to leave once you have enough E-War on field. The other type of T3C is a lot harder to deal with, in my opinion. Just in my time in Standing Fleet, it's just been much more of a pain because people keep feeding to them. The gist of it is you just need enough numbers in order to kill it before it can start taking out vexers. Something like a Legion is able to newt out an arbitrator pretty easily, so it's not going to be the best, but you're still going to want to bring them just because of the tracking disruption. Yeah. Tracking disruption against Brawly stuff, you saw how short my range became. You're going to force them into using long range and drones for most of their damage, and that'll cut down a lot. And then especially when you're doing fights against something more blingy like a T3C, bring Logi. Like, we have sites in 6U, go and grab one. Of course, if you're doing that, make sure you have at least 2, because then it's just going to get headshot. Any more questions about specific what you should do against certain hostile ships? I'm going to take that
Oh
as
yeah. Actually, yeah. Last night they brought the destroyers on the field. How does that fit in the game?
Destroyers cannot go inside ESS. The only
Oh.
things that can go in ESS are cruisers, battle cruisers, and battleships. No capitals, no destroyers, no frigates. So what a destroyer fleet would mainly do is they might have 1 or 2 cruisers. Maybe they'll have one of those stabbers, and they'll send that into ESS, and then they'll camp on the gate. That's a lot harder to deal with, but that is when you get the caracals.
Because you warp at 50 and you shoot them, right?
Yeah, what they're going to do is they're going to bubble the ESS grid, so you're going to get drawn in at 0, and they're going to start trying to shred Logi first, and then they're going to go after caracals. The main thing with that is it depends how large the fleet is. If it's a 10-man fleet or larger, it's worth pinging PvP pings in the Corp Discord, just getting more people, especially because that's not time sensitive like ESS. You have time to form and chase them. So if someone's using a frigate fleet or a destroyer fleet to cover for their ESS stealing, it depends on how big the fleet is. Anything less than 10 people, and I'm assuming T1 destroyers or T1 frigates, if you're up against like an assault frigate fleet or a T3D fleet, to call standing, please don't feed, call standing. But if you're against T1 destroyers or T1 frigates, probably just 10 caracals is enough. Countering a Phantasm, I actually modeled the Omen Navy specifically after a Phantasm. So it's meant to go. It's slower than a Phantasm, of course. An actual Phantasm with a good pod and a good prop mod goes about 2k a second. I've been looking at buying one myself. But the issue with the Phantasm is it's super fast and it has a very long range. It hits at about 70 kilometers with long range ammo, and it has really good local reps. So what you're going to want to do against Phantasms and other kitey turret boats like that, like more blingy types, like a Phantasm, or I forget the Angel one, Cinnaball. The Cinnaball also can do a similar thing with long-range autocannons or arty. So against those types of more kitey ships, what you're going to want to do is bring arbitrators, because you can shut down the turrets super easily and essentially force them to leave. You're not going to catch them just because of how fast they are, but you are going to be able to force them to disengage. Yeah. Seeing no further questions about that, I'm going to move in to a brief segment about how to prevent people from stealing ESS in the first place. So again, I'm going to talk mainly about RO, because this is a lot easier to do in a dead-end system when subcap ratting. I'm going to talk a little bit about what some of the more rich people can do later, but I don't think we have any here, so that's mainly going to be for the VOD. So subcap ratting, there's a couple things you can do. I'm assuming you're not the most rich, but what you can do is, we were discussing this during the Corp meeting, is having bubbles up on the gate. We only have one gate. RO is a dead-end system. If you anchor bubbles there, it's very hard for any potential ESS thieves to come in and feel comfortable with trying to steal anything. Of course, you should also not be going into that system at all. That is another renter system that is not ours. So it doesn't matter if the gate's bubbled for you. But anyone potentially trying to steal the ESS is in a lot of pickle if they're trying to come through a gate and it's just bubble fucked. Of course, what you can also do is you can cloak a Dictor alt on the gate, and if you ever get a +1, bubble up and then jump. That's the way to do that if you don't want to bother people with anchoring bubbles, which is also what I would recommend until we get approval to actually anchor stuff. Other than that, what you can do is you can put a dictor on the ESS grid, on the gate, because you can't go in. But if you just bubble up on the acceleration gate, when someone tries to take it, they can't warp in. And it's, in general, they can go around the bubble, but they don't. They realize there's going to be resistance and they just leave. The same is also true for putting stuff inside ESS grid. So if you want to use alts, it's always good to put a recon in ESS grid if you want to put a curse or a Hugin or something like that. That's able to kill quite a few stuff if you have range control at the start, which you have if you're there first. Other than that, there's also the strategy of cloaking stuff outside the bubble. So you can't cloak inside ESS. But once you're outside of the 75-kilometer bubble, you can activate a cloaking device and sit there. So if you want to use an alt and sit outside the bubble in either an attack battlecruiser or a cloaked battleship, and if you're feeling spicy, a marauder, you can have a long-range, large weapon system platform sitting outside the bubble, and when anyone warps in, you decloak, and you can, from 100 kilometers out, safely administer, like, I believe you get about... Thank you for scripts, man. I'll put this in the hangar. So I believe you get about... I think it was 400 to 500 DPS in an attack battlecruiser from 100 kilometers. So that's able to push off most cruisers, and you're pretty safe doing it. This is, of course, assuming you have alts that are already paid for. The easiest solution is always just to be in standing fleet and to be on comms. And just, we went through a lot of practices about how to push people off the ESS once they're there. That's honestly way easier. But if you are trying to basically chill out and you're the only one there, and you have an alt that you can spare to do something like that, it's always worth considering. Any questions about that? Yep. Okay, so in other news, I just got the guidance disruptors delivered. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in the advanced hangars. So guidance disruptors and guidance disrupting scripts are in the hangars with the arbitrators. If you guys are up against missile boats, make sure you refit. The tracking disruptors aren't going to do much. And yes, Beanie, Sniper Naga outside ESS, it's very funny because they don't have MWD, they can't warp, they're essentially stuck in place 100 kilometers away from you in your optimal inside your attack battlecruiser. It's very hard for them to combat, and it's very easy for you to escape as well. You align to a POS as you're shooting them, and the second they get too close, you hit your MJD and warp off if you can't secure the kill. Does anyone else have any more questions? If not, I think I'm going to leave this session at that.
Yeah, I think something you just alluded to is that we can't use micro warp wave in the ESS.
I'm just realizing I didn't mention that. So, you know that big bubble that stops you from warping, right?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever heard of a Hictor, a heavy interdiction cruiser?
Yes, sir.
So you know how they can fit a scrambling bubble?
That's the same thing.
Yes, it's a 75-kilometer Hictor bubble. You cannot use an MWD, you can't use an MJD, and you can't warp one inside the ESS bubble. You can outside on the acceleration gate, which is what a lot of those destroyer and frigate gangs I was talking about earlier will do, is they'll have their cruiser go inside, link ESS, and they'll be able to have their MWDs on. So it's an advantage to them when we're an ESS fit doctrine and we're AB.
All right, no more questions here.
So, once again, if you're in an arbitrator and you're against a missile boat, refit your stuff that's in the Corp hangars now. We have our guidance disruptors, we have our missile range scripts. And with that, I think I'm going to leave this session for now. The VOD will be on Twitch. I'll see what I can do about having it on YouTube as well. And I'll probably do another one of these next week if there is demand. However, I do think there was only one person who was saying they couldn't make it, and they were saying they would watch the VOD. So let's see. I'll do another one next
Yeah,
week.
that was me.
Yeah, I'll do another next week if there is demand, and if not, hopefully this is one of the last times I'll have to do it, because hopefully you guys are all experts and can teach your fellow standing fleet members.
Yeah, will do.
And with that, ending stream here.